We have a strand in our party that views supporting Trump as whether you are a rhino or not. And so you could be the most conservative person since sliced bread. Unless you're kissing his rear end, they will somehow call you a rhino.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America.
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. And this one's gonna hurt a little bit because I like Ron DeSantis. His unapologetic, pugnacious demeanor brought life to the Republican Party in the 2022 election cycle. It was amazing to see. The man not only told it like it was, and like I said, was unapologetic in his views, but he won over voters big time. The margin of victory was awesome to see. And to see what's going on with his presidential campaign right now, it just hurts a lot. And we're going to get into that in a moment. But first, a few announcements about the show. We've got merch. That's right. We just opened up our store on YouTube. We got a few t-shirt designs in there. I tried to mark down the prices as bare bones as I could. But man, am I so happy with how some of these shirts came out. Go through them. We got our first set of designs that are up right now on our YouTube store. There are going to be plenty of more designs to come, so keep on checking back. I hope you like what we have for you. And if you have any ideas for merch that you want to see, let us know in the comments. And speaking of the comments, I'm so glad to see so many people responding to our last video, but a lot of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, so please like, comment, share, all the stuff you've been doing, but also subscribe to the channel so we can keep having conversations. We're talking about Ron DeSantis' latest comments about voters who support Donald Trump, who fervently support Donald Trump. We're going to go through the whole video first. It's not that long. And then I'm going to talk about it in the context of my book, Schnooks, Crooks, Liars, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what you call in campaigning an unforced error. What do I mean by that? It's a mistake in campaigning strategy that was not brought on by anything other than yourself and your own misjudgment. You may end up agreeing with what Ron DeSantis is saying here, but that's not the point right now. Let's go through the comments. We're going to have a whole discussion later on.
We have a strand in our party that views supporting Trump as whether you are a rhino or not. And so you could be the most conservative person since sliced bread. Unless you're kissing his rear end, they will somehow call you a rhino. So it's been totally detached from principle and what you actually believe and results. And it's more about, just what faction you happen to do. So there'll be people who are huge Trump supporters, like in Congress, who have like incredibly liberal left-wing records that's really just atrocious. And yet they're viewed as by some of these folks as like really, really good. Then you have other people, like a Congressman Chip Roy, who's endorsed me, Congressman Thomas Massey. These guys have records of principle fighting the swamp that are second to none. And yet they will be attacked by some of these people and called rhinos. So it's just been totally detached from any type of substance. And ultimately, a movement can't be about the personality of one individual. The movement has got to be about what are you trying to achieve on behalf of the American people. And that's got to be based in principle. Because if you're not rooted in principle, if all we are is listless vessels that's just supposed to follow, whatever happens to come down the pike on Truth Social every morning, that's not going to be a durable movement.
Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. So let me explain to you why I think this is an unforced error. What Governor DeSantis did here is declare war on the MAGA base. The same MAGA base that is necessary to win the nomination. If you're pissing off the voters you're trying to win over, it's not a great campaign strategy. So the first point I want to make is that election politics is really more about perception than substance, especially in the early going, as we see in the early stages of the Republican primary. And so far, the first impression of Ron DeSantis is not great. He had the botch of his opening on Twitter with all the technical malfunctions. He used AI images of Trump and Dr. Fauci to stir up negative sentiment there. And just overall, he hasn't gained any traction in his campaign, despite having a glowing record. Ron DeSantis is engaging in a purity test. He is trying to claim that his brand of conservatism is more pure than anything that MAGA voters support. They supposedly support liberals. They supposedly support anybody who kisses Donald Trump's hiney. That's his perception of them. But campaigns are not about the candidate's perceptions of the electorate. It's about the other way around, the electorate's perception of the candidate. And the perception of Ron DeSantis among the most fervent Donald Trump supporters is that Donald Trump made Ron DeSantis. It was Donald Trump's support in 2018 that got DeSantis over the top against Andrew Gillum, who ended up being a totally unqualified drug addict. So in the eyes of Donald Trump supporters, they made Ron DeSantis, and now he's turning on them. It's a betrayal to these voters. The Republican primary runs through Donald Trump, whether you like it or not. Donald Trump is polling over 60% in some polls right now, despite 4 indictments. You have to win over his support in order to gain the nomination on the Republican side. And calling out purity tests about who real conservatives are and attacking Donald Trump's base of support as listless vessels is not the way to do it. Listless vessels might end up being Ron DeSantis' basket of deplorables. And we all know how that worked out for Hillary Clinton. You want to see how much of a problem Ron DeSantis has with Trump voters? There was a poll done by Rasmussen that takes Trump out of the equation. And who do these MAGA voters and the electorate in general go to? Not Ron DeSantis. They're choosing Vivek Ramaswamy, a political newbie with no political record other than his books that he wrote and talking points he has on the news. They're choosing him over the 2-term governor of the free state of Florida. This should be a wake-up call to Ron DeSantis. I mean, all the work that he put in, his unapologetic nature, his pugnacious attitude towards Democrats, it's not doing him any service against Republicans because those are the people he has to win over. On the other hand, Vivek Ramaswamy has been doing the exact right thing in his campaign. He's been talking up Donald Trump, but not talking up his bad choices. He is talking up the MAGA movement, but taking Donald Trump out of it. He's talking up the principles of that movement and not bad-mouthing Donald Trump and talking about his lackeys or listless vessels or whatever you want to call them and how they all just follow him on Truth Social like a bunch of lemmings. Voters don't like to be told that their followers just part of a cult of personality. Voters want to be won over by you, by your statements, by your record. Ron DeSantis is not doing any of that. If anything, he is pushing them away with this purity test. That's why, in my opinion, purity tests have no business in election politics. It's bad for candidates who try to claim that they're the most pure when their record is going to show that they're not. And it's bad for voters to do because you're never going to find a totally pure candidate. Like anything else in politics, campaign and election politics is all about compromise. Who is the best fit for the voter for that moment? And right now, at least according to this poll, if Trump is out of the equation, it's not Ron DeSantis, it's Vivek Ramaswamy. Now remember what I said. Politics is perception, and the perception of MAGA voters, fervent Donald Trump supporters, is that Ron DeSantis is a traitor to their cause. Their perception is that Ron DeSantis, in going after Trump so hard, is going after them just as hard. And the fact that he is portraying his supporters as true conservatives and MAGA supporters as being a cult of personality is not winning them over. That's why this is an unforced error. And it's also why this is being perceived as hypocrisy by Ron DeSantis. Any way you slice it, it's not good for him. DeSantis needs to do something to right the ship. And one of the things he should be doing is reaching out to the largest pool of voters out there instead of denigrating them. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you again for hanging out this long. Please like, comment, share the show with your friends, subscribe to the channel, check out some merch on the way out as well. Got some really cool stuff there in my opinion. And keep coming back so we can have more uncomfortable conversations like this. And believe me, for me, this was an uncomfortable conversation, but it needs to be done if we're going to call out all the shenanigans and buffoonery that's going on this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.